Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Living in Hawaii. I am Misty Padilla, born and raised here in Kailua Kona, and I'm so honored to have with me today Mara and Linda. Welcome, ladies. How are you this morning?
Well, thank you.
Thanks. How are
Very
you?
good. Wonderful. Thank you. It is beautiful, sunshiny day today in Kailua Kona. The rain did come down a little bit on us last night. Grounds are wet, but nonetheless, it is a very beautiful day. How about for you in Oahu?
It's raining up here where I live. Yep.
And how about for you, Mara?
Oh, I'm in Kona as well. So, yeah, bright and sunny outside, and it looks like it's going to be a gorgeous day.
Wonderful. Let's go ahead and get started with you sharing a little bit about yourself, Mara, and then we'll move on to Linda, and then we'll start our topic of discussion for today.
All right. I'm Mara, born and raised here in Kona. Lived on the Big Island, different parts of the Big Island, but always lived on the Big Island, and come from a long history of social work and really enjoy helping people, but needed a break from healthcare. So here I am.
Thank you for your service. How about for you, Linda?
I am Linda Kawakami here on Oahu. I moved here from the San Francisco Bay Area almost 30 years ago, 29 years. So I consider myself kama'aina here. But it's been that long since I moved my car. And so I hope I can remember some of the things that happened when I did do so.
Wonderful. Well, welcome. Can you share with us what were your deciding factors on relocating to Hawaii, particularly on Oahu?
For myself, I was very naive and ignorant. So when I thought of Hawaii, I thought of the grass shack and didn't think highways or anything like that. But I met my husband on the mainland, and he is from Hawaii. And when he said, we live in houses and we have highways and roads, I was like, oh, okay. He wanted to move back to Hawaii. He had cancer 4 years into our marriage. And after he finished treatment and stuff, he says, I want to go back home. I want to go back to Hawaii. So I packed everything up and we moved out here in 96.
Very nice. Well, we're glad to have you a part of our ohana, and blessings to your husband as well. And thank you to Mara for all of your service. Helping goes a long way, as we all know. Living in Hawaii, we have to abide by the law, the live aloha law, and continuing to help one another. It just goes a very long way. So thank you for your service and all that you do.
And there really is an aloha spirit law. I don't think people realize that we're not kidding about that, that it's on the books. I forget what the HRS number is, but it's actually a law.
Absolutely right. And yes, thank you for continuing to live it every day. It goes a long way. Of course, we're all human. We all have our moments. But at the same time, if everyone can continue to keep that in our forefront, it definitely keeps Hawaii, and just makes our world a better place. I'm sure you can agree with me, right?
Yep.
Very good. Well, let's go ahead and start talking about how we can relocate our vehicles and all the options of relocating our vehicles to Hawaii. I can't speak into it because I've never relocated, but I have bought vehicles from the mainland, so to speak, California, and gone through the process in shipping it. But I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Linda, on Oahu. For those of you tuning in, thank you once again, livinginhawaii.com. We would love to be your trusted resource for all things Hawaii. We want to be your local guidance to all the questions that you may have in order for you to relocate to Hawaii. And for those of you who don't know, we live on islands. We don't live on the same island. You can see that Mara and I are Hawaii Island and Linda is on Oahu. And we cannot drive to all these islands. We have to fly. We can't paddle a canoe. We can't run or walk or drive. We have to fly to each island. So each island has different process and procedures for all things. So let's go ahead and start with Linda on Oahu. If you can just enlighten us on the process.
Yeah, so you do have to ship your car if you're going to bring it over. And back 30 years ago, it was about $500, and that was crazy money. Now it's close to probably $2,000. But there's all this stuff you have to go through. There's different shipping lines. I think I used Matson, but there are other shipping lines. And you would bring your car down to the dock, and you have to make sure there's nothing in your car. I mean, you can't have anything in the car. That means your glove compartment, anything. So you bring that, and they give you paperwork, bill of lading or something like that. And then so you take it down to the port, and then they'll ship it off for you to whichever island you're going to. I think they all come to Oahu first, and then from Oahu they'll go out to the other islands.
It's so funny you said nothing in the car. I have to reflect back. I want to say to about maybe 1996.
And that was me.
Right? So I recall that. So back then, I remember purchasing a vehicle. Of course, we love to support local. Now we have more local options with buying vehicles, on island versus through the mainland. So we do want to give our local businesses a shout out too. But I remember in 1996, I did have to buy from the mainland because it was cheaper. Living in Hawaii is very, very expensive.
Yeah.
But I remember back then, I had a family member who was working at the bank who was lending me the money. And he was like, "Hey, I heard you're shipping your car. Can I throw in my moving boxes? Bring it to Kona." Back then, I must have done it right before the car because I was in my car and send it over. But now I know that's a big no-no. Like Linda said, you have to have everything empty. And then, of course, ensure that you are sending over not a full tank of gas, because that's super important. Because right. So that was funny. I had to touch on that because back in the day, you could really send your boxes over in the car.
Yeah. I thought I could do that, save on some of the costs, but no.
Very good. How about Mara? Do you have any experience with enhancing anything that Linda just shared with us?
I've really shipped cars inter-island and never from the U.S. mainland. I do know that when people bring cars over here that are 10 plus years old, what happens is that the car usually doesn't survive the Hawaii weather too long. So if you have an older vehicle and it's not an antique, it's not something you're super attached to, it seems like the car's paid off, I'll just ship it. It's way cheaper than buying a new car. Think about what kind of vehicle you're bringing, and do you see them a lot here on the island? Do they hold up to our weather? Because I've unfortunately seen it all too often where people ship an older vehicle here and it just doesn't last very long. So just another thing to consider before you actually put your car on the barge.
Very true. And in my minimal experience with this, I always remember my stepfather, my bonus dad. He's a professional auto detailer, and taking care of vehicles is just his passion. And he always would tell me, anytime you ship your vehicles on the barge, please tell the dealers not to peel the tape off. I guess it's customary. Again, maybe this was back then, but it was customary for all the dealers to always peel the tape when you drive it off the lot because it just looks much more sparkly and new. But anytime you ship it, he would always tell them to leave it on because of the way it's transported. All the salt, it does cause damage, especially to your beautiful brand new car. So that when you do receive it off the barge, you can peel the tape off, take it to an auto detailer and get it well maintained. So I will always remember that.
I have another point, Misty. If you're bringing over a big car like a Cadillac Escalade, I would think twice about it because especially here on Oahu, our roads are very narrow. There's a stretch of H1 that narrows down because they added another lane. And so it's just you're within that lane and it's really, really tight. And then the parking stalls too here are really, really tight. So you won't be able to your Escalade will be sitting on the lines. And then for sure you're going to get dinked. And so it's not a very practical car here in Hawaii, Oahu, the big cars. So unless you really need the space, I would consider downsizing, not bringing it.
Very good to know. And living on Hawaii Island, it's always recommended that everyone here on the island has trucks. Mara, can you agree with me?
True.
Absolutely. On all-wheel drive at very least.
For
But,
sure. And we do a lot of off-roading, right?
Yeah, and you'll
for a couple different reasons. I mean, on one hand, yes, there are still places where you need four-wheel drive, or even just parking on somebody's grass. You know, if it's in
yes.
a wet area, you don't realize how much your car is going to sink into that grass. So you need four-wheel drive for that. Also, it's just a practical thing. You know, there's no county rubbish service, and so you've got to figure out how to haul. There are private services you could hire, but a lot of people need to haul their own trash, and who wants to put your trash in your car, right? And also stuff like if your refrigerator stops working and you need to get a new one, you go to Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever and you buy it, but they can't deliver it for 3 weeks. And even in 3 weeks, what if the delivery driver's out sick or quit, or their delivery truck broke down? And so I know it sounds kind of trivial, but those are things that we contend with here I'm not sure about Oahu, but I know on the outer islands, we contend with that kind of stuff all the time. So having a truck, at least one per household is really, really, it's not a luxury, it's a necessity.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you
Yeah.
there. And of course, our beaches, you come to Hawaii Island, you want to explore our beautiful beaches, and nothing like getting stuck in the sand in your car and not having four-wheel drive, and then having to call the aunties and the uncles next door to tie you up and pull you out of the sand, So yes, be prepared for all elements and all conditions here on the island.
Yeah,
Linda,
that's not so much here on Oahu, because we do have a lot of concrete, but a lot of people drive like the compact or mini SUVs, like the RAV4s, the Mazda MX-5s, that size car, and not anything bigger, because there's really, unless you have a minivan, then your trucks, not too many sedans. So yeah, that's life here on Oahu. Yeah.
Right. And again, taking into consideration all the things, depending on which island you choose to call home, of course, taking account for the roadways, like Linda said, certain types of vehicles are not going to be feasible for certain parts of the island. So take that into consideration. And then, of course, everyone, living in Hawaii comes with a price. You have to pay a pretty penny to be in paradise. So yes, our gas prices are outrageous. To us, at least, it's outrageous.
Right.
Unless, of course, you have membership at Costco and Safeway. I'm not sure if that's the same for you folks on Oahu.
Yes.
So take that into consideration, gas versus electric. And then, of course, moving on to electric, we're also limited with charging stations. So again, keep all of these factors in mind. Ladies, can you speak into that on gas versus electric and the options to charge?
Well, I just went to Oahu the other week, and we tried to we did rent a vehicle, and we inquired about their electric vehicles, and they said that they sold all of their electric vehicles. And so I asked why, and they said that it's just not feasible. Even on Oahu, where there are more charging station options, they said it's not feasible because someone rents the car and it takes time to recharge it. And so a lot of times they're not able to recharge it because they can't find a station, or the station is in use and there's a line to charge it. So people were returning the vehicles without a full battery. And then at the rental car company, they didn't have the infrastructure to charge a whole fleet of cars at the same time. So they said, a lot of times people just could not find the infrastructure that they needed to charge the vehicle. I have met people on the Big Island that I will drive Uber from time to time. And so I picked this guy up, and he said his vehicle was charging out at the Four Seasons, which is outside of Kona a ways. And I thought it was an odd place to be. I said, "Oh, you must have been with friends." And, and he said, "No, he came from Hilo. He knew he needed to recharge, and he kept stopping at these different stations, and they were all inoperable." And he said what happens is that somebody is going around and trashing all of these recharging stations, and you don't know that until you get there. But then we also have a lot of people on our team that have Teslas and other electric vehicles and love them. but what they say is that you really have to have a port at home, and you have
Yes.
to be diligent about charging it at home, because it's just not really feasible to rely on the community's infrastructure to charge your vehicle. So
That
that's my 2 cents. And because we traverse the island so much, for me, it just doesn't make sense to have to drive to Hilo and then stop and charge my vehicle for a few hours before I head back, where I could
right.
just go to the gas station, fill up my tank, and be out of there in a couple of minutes and hit the road.
That is
So,
such a good point, Mara. I always joke about this. I'm always the person that runs my vehicle on E. My phone is not fully charged because my kids are always taking it. So I'm like, the joke is I could never get a Tesla or an electric vehicle because my friends and family can't bring a charging station to me anytime I get stuck without a charge. So these are all the things you got to take into consideration. On Hawaii Island, things are far apart. It's not like Oahu where you always have constant traffic and people. You could drive hours apart and not come across anyone if you're stuck on Hawaii Island. So all these factors play a big role, especially when it comes to safety. You don't want to get
no,
stuck without a charge in certain areas of the island. I'm sure Oahu has the same as well, right, Linda?
Yes, we are getting more infrastructure, but like Mara said, unless you have one at home, it's really iffy, because a lot of the shopping centers only have one or two, and they're always taken. I know here in Pearl Ridge, right in the middle of the island in Aiea, above Pearl Harbor, they have a huge bank of Tesla charging stations. And I think it's for the condo people who live close by because, like you said, it takes a while for it to charge. So, unless you're going to have one at home, don't bring your electric car.
Very good.
well,
All these things to take
last
into consideration.
last I checked, there are 4 rapid charging stations on the Big Island that are open to the public. 2 at Kona's Hawaiian Electric Company and 2 at Hilo's. And so if those are inoperable, or if the power's out or whatnot, or if there's just a line, I mean, 4
That's
for
not
a population of 250,000. I
mm,
mean, not everybody has an electric vehicle, but that's still not great odds, you know?
very true. Very true. So again, come with a lot of patience, should you decide to relocate to Hawaii. Do your due diligence, right? Continue to do your due diligence and research all things to make your transition much more pleasant. Let's also
Especially if you're
go
moving
ahead.
to a condo. I'm sorry. If
No,
you're
go
moving
ahead.
to a condo, there's no charging stations.
Right, in most
Most
condos.
likely. Yeah.
Some
So,
of them we know they are trying to enhance
yeah.
all of these options, but again, it takes time. It's going to
Yeah.
take time and money. If you're paying an HOA, expect your HOA to go up. Your homeowners association fees. So all these things, it just again comes down to paying that pretty price to be in paradise, and being prepared. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to go ahead and
But I will
also
say,
go
oh,
ahead. Go
I
ahead.
was going to say, everyone I know that has an electric vehicle on island also has a gas powered vehicle. I don't know anybody that has completely gotten rid of their gas powered vehicles and just gone fully electric, because they know that there are times when it's not going to be feasible to just have an electric vehicle. So just keep
Very
that in mind when you're considering, buying an electric vehicle or shipping one to the Big Island. Is that, I mean, ask somebody who's living that life and knows what they're talking about before you actually pull that trigger and do it. Yeah.
Very, very true. And again, knowing, let's go ahead and touch on our resources. We only have a couple of options to ship the vehicles over. I know Linda mentioned Matson. I'm familiar with Young Brothers.
Mhm.
Um, Again, we're very, very limited. Ladies, if you can speak more into that, is come with a lot of patience because you will not get your vehicle within 24 hours. It's going to take a very long time. So you got to come with that expectation and be prepared. And then knowing that if you're not going to get your vehicle within so many days and weeks, maybe even months, again, we're very limited in Hawaii. So you have to go ahead and do your due diligence with rental cars. It depends on the timing of when you come. Some rental cars may not even have any cars available, right? Any of you can speak into that, ladies?
I've met people that actually ended up buying a cheap vehicle here because they knew that they were not going to get their vehicle for the next few months. Um, and so, yeah, definitely something to think about. Renting a vehicle for a month or renting a Turo vehicle adds up really quickly. So if you can find a car for under $5,000, a lot of people will just buy a beach cruiser. They'll deal with it for a few months, and then when their other vehicle arrives, then they just turn around and resell it.
Very true. I've definitely seen those experience the same.
Public transportation is, I was going to say it's a joke, but maybe that's a harsh way. It's extremely limited, and it's not super reliable, and it can get costly, and it's not always available. I mean, people say, oh, just Uber. Well, you're not going to get an Uber from Volcano National Park down into anywhere, into town, So yeah, definitely talk to the locals about transportation, but usually it works out better to just get a cheap vehicle.
Right. Very good. That's a great idea. Being proactive, and then try to support local, right? I want to go ahead and talk about our DMV process, the Department of Motor Vehicles. I know when we speak of that word locally, everyone just cringes, if you can agree with me there, ladies. Right?
Absolutely.
Such a topic where you're like, oh, everyone just cringes whenever you mention DMV. So again, come with a lot of patience. Our systems, I can speak for Hawaii Island and particularly in Kailua Kona, our systems are very outdated, but I know they're trying their best. They're trying to upgrade the systems to make things flow more smoothly when it comes to vehicles, when it comes to permitting, when it comes to all things, as we run on a very limited old school system, so to speak. And so it really, really helps to know someone in the DMV. You want to keep that person in your pocket. You want to take care of them and malama them and just treat them with the utmost aloha, because I promise you that is going to be life-changing for you. So that's my advice.
Food.
Right?
Always take food.
And it's
a little different here on Oahu.
It's a treacherous process here. And again, it is getting better, and I'm grateful for that. But I literally need to prepare. If I need to be at the DMV, I have to allow hours. There's times where I can go in and out, but most times you need to be prepared for hours. Mara, can you enlighten a little bit on that process here on our island?
I feel the same way. I will say that here in Kona, anyway, they have gotten better in just the last few months. I've noticed when I had to go and renew my license, less than 6 months ago. I walked in just to see what the process would be and what paperwork I needed to bring. And she looked at my license. She goes, I can do it right now. And I said, you don't need any paperwork? I don't need to make an appointment? She goes, no, I got time. Okay. So I was able to, I walked in just to ask questions, and I was able to get my new license and get out of there in less than an hour. But that's not typical. Nowadays, you want to make your appointment. And like Misty said, you want to plan to be there for a while. Even if you have an appointment, I always take something to read or take some busy work that I can do. They do have free Wi-Fi, and they do have seating areas outside. And so you just kind of come prepared. And yeah, you do want to budget 2 to 3 hours at least. But what you can do as an individual to really kind of streamline the process is just make sure you read through everything and make sure you've got all the documentation you need. And if you're not sure you need it, take it anyway. And that way, if they do want it, you already have it. So at least you've done your part to make sure that the process goes smoothly. But like Misty said, you absolutely want to budget some time. If somebody calls out sick or somebody quit, it seems to be hard for them to find good employees that stick around for a long time. And so either you're dealing with somebody who's very disgruntled or overworked, or somebody who's brand new, And so no matter what, it's going to just make for a more stressful process. And so, yeah, you make sure that you take a deep breath and calm down before you get there, and make sure that you have plenty of time and something to do, and just be prepared to hang out for a while. And our DMV is not in a bad area. There is some breeze. Like I said, there is good Wi-Fi. There are some tables. There's, clean bathrooms. So it's not a bad place to have to spend a few hours. So,
For
but just
sure.
be prepared for that. Don't go hungry.
Right.
Because if you have to stay for 3 hours, you're going to be really upset by the time it's over. So,
Which they do have vending machines now, looking back in
yes.
the day when DMV was down at the old airport. Oh my gosh, I think I was in high school. Again, that was a great location. But yes,
Yeah.
DMV has definitely enhanced all of their amenities to have your experience be much more pleasant. And Mara, just as you said, you have to read
Yes.
thoroughly. Everything is online now, which is so good. Their website is very, very efficient, and you just got to go ahead and read through and ensure that you have all these documents. Super, super important. The documents that they do require, it must be clean documents. You cannot have creases, rips, folds. You can have the natural fold that it comes in the mail, but you can't have additional creases and folds, or even paper clip. When you paper clip your papers together and it leaves the rust of the paper clip, all those things
That might
from
be a Hawaii thing, but
yeah,
it's so humid here that our paper clips rust. So
and you can't have that on your documents. They will ask
yeah.
you to go ahead and submit for new documents. So come with clean, original. It has to be original documents too. It can't be photocopy unless, again, it's specified depending on what your need is. Linda, I see you with that reaction that that's not how we function on Oahu. So share with us and enlighten us the DMV experience on Oahu.
Yeah, it's a little bit more streamlined here. We have something called Aloha Q, which is an online appointment making. And so when you make your appointment, which can take weeks to get an open appointment, but we have many satellite city halls on the island. So it's not just everyone going to like Kailua Kona or going to Hilo. We have many around the island that you can go to. So your chances of getting a day and time that you want is pretty good. Like Mara said, bring everything, even if you think I might not need it, because if you don't have it, you have to make another appointment and come back. So bring everything. I've not run across being told that, oh, this has to be perfect, but maybe all my documents have been perfect. I don't know. Once
You were
you
prepared.
yeah, once you get everything registered that first time, the yearly registration is very easy. I can go to my Safeway and do it all in this kiosk, and there's a slight charge for the credit card or something like that. But other than that, it's good. The thing to really remember, it's different here than on the mainland, at least in California, is that safety inspection. In California, when you register your car, you had to do a smog check at the same time. But here in Hawaii, they're two separate things. So there's the car registration, and then your car safety inspection. Your car safety inspection has to be done every year, and it might not coincide to when your registration is due. I learned that the hard way because my first year I was here, I didn't know about the safety inspection, and I'm driving down Alawai in Waikiki, and I'm getting pulled over by a police car, and I'm thinking, what did I do? I'm not going too fast. And he says, ma'am, you don't have a safety inspection. And I said, what is that? And so they give you a warning, and you have to get your safety inspection. You go to garages or mechanics that have the safety inspection logo on them, and you get the safety inspection, maybe $45 or something. You get that form, and then you'd have to go to the police department and show them that you did get it. But that's something that's really different. It's not the same time. It's completely different. And you got to remind yourself yearly, oh, I got to go do the safety inspection. And don't wait till the end of the month, because everyone's waiting to the end of the month. So
Yeah.
Very
that's my
true.
point.
When you ship a vehicle to Hawaii Island, people, a lot of people know they need to register the vehicle. What a lot of people miss is that you have to have a safety inspection in order to register your vehicle. And like Linda said, the safety inspection has to be within the past year. So you pick your car up from the barge, you go get the safety check. They're going to give you a fail on your safety check because the vehicle's not registered. Then you go to the DMV and you get your registration, and then you go back. I mean, you have to go back and forth a couple times to get all the paperwork, and it's a pain. Welcome to Hawaii. That's how we do things here. But you do need a failed safety check because, I mean, all else has to pass, but except for the registration. And then you take that to the registration, then they give you the registration, then you go back and get the actual safety check, because they do actually print out stickers with your license plate on it that you have to display on the back of your vehicle. So yeah, be prepared. It's not something you can just go and get done lickety split. It is probably going to take days to, get the safety check and get the registration and all the things.
Right. You
it
are
is a process.
absolutely right. And I've been in that process as we speak, with name changes and address changes. All these things have to be in alignment. So yes, do your due diligence and be extra prepared. With mention too, when Mara talked about the stickers, also, we do have people around the island that steal stickers off of vehicles. So yes, when you do place your sticker, you want to make sure that you place it within the frame and then start scratch it, right? So if they do try to steal it, the stickers will separate. All these things that we just have to do for safety and extra precaution. And then another one that I also wanted to touch on was relative to DMV with your registration and safety is, of course, yes, your license. With all the TSA rules and regulations with travel, right? You want to ensure that your license has that star on it, because that's something globally that we all need to abide by in order to travel. And then, of course, your address, ensure that your address is always consistent. It has to coincide with the documents that you bring to DMV. They need X amount of documents to show your residential or your mailing address, whatever it may be. Just take your time and do your due diligence and read everything that you need so that you can have a pleasant experience. What else did we miss here? I know there was something else that we needed to touch on with safety. Oh, tint. That's what I want to talk about, because yes, I did experience that. I have a house full of cars that love dark tint. And of course, it is very illegal in Hawaii to have dark tint. Blackout tint specifically is what we call it. So yes, you do need to go ahead and remove the tint, because you cannot get your safety inspection without having, you got to have your legal tint. And here in Hawaii, in Kona, I want to say it costs like $50 to get it removed. And then you just go ahead and choose your local tint shop to go ahead and retint. And again, legal tint is the way to go, and you will get ticketed. I did have a friend that took off the illegal tint, went and got the safety check, and then went back and retinted. But in the system, you're flagged. You're flagged for having, illegal tint, and they're going to come after you. They're cracking down on all these things. So that's my experience that I can speak into it. Any of you ladies have that experience?
So the police officers actually have one of those tint meters that they carry around in their police vehicles now. And when they pull you over, they'll put it on your window and they'll check the percentage of the tint. And if it's, below 35%, they can ticket you, and they can ticket you separately for each each window that is too dark. So for instance, if you're driving a sedan, you have, there are 2 driver's windows, 2 passengers windows, and you've got the rear windshield. And then if you've got a tint strip that's below that little mark on the windshield, they can ticket you for that as well. So what is that? They could ticket you for 6 windows on one vehicle. So just the fines, and this was years ago, I got pulled over for this. And years ago, I believe I would have had to pay about $1,800 in fines. Mm-hmm. And then I would still have to get the tint ripped off. And, up to me whether I want to just drive with no tint or whether I want to retint the vehicle. But, I would have to pay for that after I paid $1,800 in fines. So yeah, it really, although we live in Hawaii and it does get hot, there are some tints that that prevent the UV rays from getting into your vehicle. That's
Right.
very helpful, and that keeps things a lot cooler, even though it's not super dark. So you don't quite have the same privacy that you used to when you had really, really dark tint. But yeah, it's just not worth it to me to have the super dark tint and have to be kind of, just walking on eggshells all the time.
Right.
Um, yeah,
It's different here on
it's a
Oahu.
pain.
It's different here on Oahu. It used to be the same. Front tint could only be so many percent, and the back can be so many percent. They just changed that law, so you can have tinted windows. Didn't look into it, but you can have darker tint now legally. So that just changed, not even a month ago, I don't think. So
Very good. Well, we have
Lucky.
covered just about all the most important things with shipping our vehicle to Hawaii and ensuring that our vehicles are compliant so we can enjoy the beauty of Hawaii while we drive safely on our roads. And I thank you, ladies, for joining me today. Any last closing thoughts while we wrap it up here? Linda, go ahead and share with us any random thoughts that you'd like to share with our viewers and listeners.
I think you should know where you're going to be living. If you're going to have a garage, then your car will probably be okay. But if you're just a carport, out in the open, close to the water, like Mara said, your car is going to deteriorate very, very quickly. So you might not even need to ship your car. You can buy a car here. Yeah, that's it.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. How about for you, Mara? Any last closing thoughts?
Well, two things. I think maintenance goes a very long way. So yeah, it's a pain to, get up and wash and polish your vehicle and to do your maintenance. I'm talking change your oil, rotate your tires. But those little maintenance things really go a long way to keeping your car in much better working condition and prevent you from being stuck on the side of the road. Um, and then as far as safety checks go, it's funny because they call them safety checks, but they don't check brakes, they don't check transmission, they don't check engine, they check your blinkers, they check your windshield wipers, they check your brake lights. And so, it's kind of superficial stuff that they're looking for. And of course, those things make it, if you use them appropriately, it makes you a little bit more pleasant to be around when you're driving on the road. But you can Google that, for safety check purposes, what does it take for my vehicle to pass safety check? And basically you need working brake lights, working blinkers, working headlights. You need windshield wipers, but they don't do any smog check. They don't check your brake pads and how thick they are or whether they work at all. So it's kind of an interesting thing. So it's definitely, if you're not familiar with the safety check process, do a little bit of research first, because it really sucks to get there and then find out that one of your brake lights isn't working.
Mhm.
And then they give you a fail on your safety check. You have to go fix it. And even that's flagged in the system. And so you can't just go to another safety check place and hope that they miss it, because they'll be able to see that you already failed your safety check somewhere else, because it's all computerized now. So anyway, just do your research, make sure that you check those things before you head to your safety check appointment. Yeah.
Very good. I completely echo all the things that you ladies have just shared. And then, of course, for me, continue to live aloha daily and drive with aloha. Uh, Throw your shaka. Somebody cuts you off, drive with aloha. Don't be flipping anybody off, because you better believe they're going to chase you down. So drive with aloha, everyone. And that's just my, go-to is do all things with aloha. You go and travel to our beautiful places here. As you arrive, leave the place looking better than you found it. And that's just how we were raised here. It's just malamada aina and drive with aloha. So thank you,
I
ladies.
love it.
Appreciate you. And thank you, everyone, for tuning into Living in Hawaii. Feel free to reach out to us at any time. We would love to be your trusted resource for all things Hawaii. Have a great day, everyone. Aloha.